Have you ever won an award? Have you ever been given an award?
In high school, I won most likely to succeed. You're just staring at me like
Well, they knew.
they know.
They knew. You have succeeded.
It's funny because like we talked about that with my parents over Christmas, and we were like, "Well, have you succeeded?" And I'm like, "Yep." And they're like, "I guess so."
I imagine you like a smaller version of you, just like clicking away at Mario 64. And then you hear that you got this award and you're like, yeah. I mean, I am pretty good. I am pretty good at everything I do.
One of my regrets is that I also in the initial round of voting I tied for most intelligent, but I hadn't voted for myself in that round. If I would have voted for myself in the first round, I apparently would have won unless they fudged the numbers.
You self-selected away from
Yeah.
from
And
the
then
most intelligent.
someone else won. The guy who went to Yale won the second round, which makes sense. Like he was smarter than me.
But it's just Yale. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you go there, then you spend some time in Afghanistan, and then you become like the Florida governor, which is like it's a multiple kicks to the face, you know.
Mm. Yeah. I for one, I'm definitely glad I didn't go. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Yale is one of the worst offenders in the like creating people who get swallowed up by capitalism and like become one of the people who keeps capitalism and imperialism running. So,
You know, like I don't know if I ever told you this. I was trying to go to a private school. There was a Catholic private school in the South Side that was near where I lived, and it was private enough for me to be like, ooh. But it was about $12,000 a year.
mm,
So I was like, I'll just get a job. I'll just work
uh,
to go to this school. And
hmm
but I learned at a young age that like it really didn't matter how good you were at school. What really mattered is the school.
hmm
I kind of fell into what is effectively credentialism.
yeah,
And I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to ever move to a better school with a better name. And even the college that I went to, it's like ugh, whatever. I just reminisce about this because I'm like I am starting my 2025 with the final nail in the coffin that is the liberalism in my mind.
hmm
And it's just funny to think that at 15, 16, I was trying to be so industrious that I was just trying to be near or at the proximity of rich, powerful whiteness. So,
uh,
and now I'm over here.
yeah,
Now I'm living.
uh, yeah. Do you feel like how often do you think about like how different your life would have been if you would if like you would have been able to be in those classes immediately and like do you think you've come to the conclusion that like your life wouldn't actually be that different or what do you think?
I spent zero time thinking about that.
Uh-huh.
I spent zero time on it purely because that that question can go to infinitum
Yeah.
in my life, you know? What if I didn't move to this other town? What if I just stayed in that one? What if I never moved back to Chicago?
What if someone recruited you to be on a season of Survivor? Yeah. I feel like for me, I dream about high school and college a lot, and my most common dream is that for some reason I have one more class I need to take both in high school and college at the same time. And then like they found out that like you didn't actually do enough classes, so you got to go back. And then like usually I'm like back in high school and I'm trying to like open my locker, but I don't remember the combination.
Like how often?
I mean I don't have that exact dream very often, but I feel like I have variations on it, like maybe like on a weekly basis. And I think part of it is like I do feel like longtime listeners of the show may know that I have trouble sleeping. And I'm often trying to figure out like, okay, like what should I think about in order to fall asleep? Because like there's certain topics that my brain usually goes to when I'm trying to fall asleep, and I'm like, okay, let's
You're like, what is just boring and uninteresting?
Yeah.
My podcast.
High school and college, I'm like, I actually like those are kind of like pretty, not too interesting topics for me. So I feel like that part might be part of because I thing about me is like I never remember the thing I think about right before I fall asleep. What if it's like what if there actually is a golden skeleton key to make me fall asleep and I just don't know about it? And the fact that I do often have dreams about high school and college, it makes me want to think about those before I fall asleep. But then my brain naturally just goes to another topic anyway. It goes back to like, what would I do if I had a death note? And I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're doing that, or we're ranking all the seasons
You're
of Survivor.
like a.
Yeah, well, as we know, nicknames do not work.
Oh yeah, you'll never know my real name.
You've been hiding it this entire time, and in order to find it out, I would have to make the deal with the Shinigami to cut my life in half so I can get the special eyes that make your name float over your head.
Look, as we know, due to Emilia Perez, you're half dead already. So
Yeah, and who's more half dead than Nosferatu?
ain't no one more dead than that nasty Ratu,
Yeah.
my boy. He is. He's deep in our heart. My heart specifically. AP. Is he in your heart? Is he in your heart, Marcy?
He's not in my heart. Nosferatu doesn't make me horny.
He doesn't make me horny either.
Yeah.
I'm just sympathetic. I am also a mustached man.
Yeah. No, I have sympathy for Lily Rose Depp's character. I have a little bit of I have sympathy for our craggy alchemist man who we'll get to.
Another mustached man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mustaches here.
Definitely some mustaches.
50% of this podcast is mustached.
Well, maybe 1/3 because Nomi doesn't have a mustache.
Welcome to Dove Weather. This is the first episode of 2025, and we are going to talk about Nosferatu and a melody of other things,
Yeah.
including but not limited to sleep,
Yeah.
which I kind of just want to start there.
Uh-huh.
I am someone who cannot, I can't guess how much I'll sleep or how well I'll sleep in any 2-day period.
Yeah. Like, do you feel like if you're really tired, do you sometimes try to go to sleep earlier and then like is it easier to fall asleep if you're tired or does it have no effect?
I truly do not know.
Okay.
I am not someone who like needs a lot of sleep.
I think I'm similar in that way. I think part of it's just a survival thing of like I've had to persist on not a lot of sleep, so that means that I've had to just like deal with that.
You're like, it's 4 hours. I gotta get up. I'm Marcy the operator.
I'm also not a coffee drinker, so
Which is like your biggest red flag.
if you say so. Yeah.
I just did.
yeah.
I'll say it again. When's the last time you had an espresso?
Well, I had an espresso martini for New Year's Eve. Does that count?
No.
No. Okay.
When's the last time you had an espresso?
I also like how you're calling it an espresso. I like that.
I love when my accent is called upon.
Yes, it's
Un
definitely your accent.
espresso. Oh, when's the last time you had an espresso? Oh, I had an espresso martini on New Year's Eve. I'm not being Italian here. I'm being another type of Latino.
I mean, I do like tea, but the thing I don't like about it is like it takes too long for hot tea to get to a taste that you like, and cold tea just isn't that good. So it's like,
No iced tea for you.
not really, no. Yeah, I feel like I like lemonade. I like something that you can just like drink immediately, and then you're like, hey, this is pretty sweet, and then you're just like, you just move on with your day.
Yeah, I love a little sweet drink because I'm a sweet guy.
Yeah,
With difficulty sleeping, truly because like a lot of my days are just like different. Not super different, but just different enough for them to never really catch a rhythm. So like with Nosferatu, like call upon me through the dark forest into my room and say that he woke up from his slumber, from his darkness, just for me, I don't think so. I just don't think he'll ever get the chance, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a character in this movie whose sleeping patterns are very strange. And I'm, of course, talking about Ellen Hutter, played by Lily Rose Depp, who at the beginning of the movie, you know, is having these dreams that are very weird. You know, she's convulsing in her bed. Her husband, played by Nicholas Holt.
A guy I love to see. I love seeing this guy just get battered.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've seen 2 episodes of Skins, and, you know, you've seen a lot more Skins than I have.
Yeah, back in the day, I don't remember anything of it. I was like a teenager. I used to be, admittedly, I used to be a little bit of an anglophone. No.
Are you pro or anti-British? Or were pro or anti-British?
You know, I can't confirm or deny how much I've enjoyed British media.
Uh-huh.
But I can tell you that being pro-British in 2025, like a trans woman is asking me how pro.
Well, I asked you how pro you were, because I am someone who have often struggled with like British media. Like the main exception, well, I say the main exception being Peep Show, but also that show has some transphobic jokes in it as well, and I had troubles with those aspects.
My thing is that the British accent sometimes is inscrutable to me.
Same.
I don't really. That might just be the Midwestern in me, like the fact that if they just said cheese curd in such a way that my brain can auto adjust to that, if that is my true center. But no, I used to be way more. I did watch Sherlock and Doctor Who, and I did watch a lot of those propaganda detective shows. Broadchurch, if you ever saw that one.
Oh yeah, I feel like we've mentioned Broadchurch on this pod before. Yeah.
And Top Gear, ugh.
I remember when Top Gear was really popular on the internet, and I just didn't understand why. I was like, there were people who were like, yeah, it's the best show of the decade. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What decade?
I don't even know. The 2000s or something. They're like, why didn't you put Top Gear on this list of the best shows?
No.
I'm glad that that type of person has gone away.
So watching this, hearing all the British accents, and being a fan of Nicolas, it's nice. I mean, yeah, literally most of these actors I have seen. William Dafoe, love that man, but that's a Midwestern princess right there. He's from Wisconsin. And then Ralph Ineson, who plays the doctor. I've seen that guy around. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I saw him in Kick-Ass way back when. But yeah, I know that Nosferatu might be out still in theaters for you, listener. So if you have not seen it, we are going to just talk about all of it. So just a heads up there.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, Nosferatu dies.
Nosferatu.
Just like in all the other movies, except this time, there's more sex involved.
How much more sex, though?
Some sex, but not enough.
A sex you like. Heterosexual sex in between.
I'm so queer that when I see heterosexual sex, I'm like, okay, next.
You put up a cross. You're like, what is this? Where's my garlic?
Yeah. I've also been watching a lot of What We Do in the Shadows, and that show, basically all the characters are gay. They're very casually queer.
Is the psychic vampire also gay in that?
Are you talking about
the bald guy?
Oh yeah, he basically casually just reveals that he had sex with a man. That's the type of queer shit that they do. Yeah, especially the vampires on that show live for a very long time. I feel like they live for so long that they're just like, well, duh, why wouldn't I just fuck someone of the same gender as me?
In the freaky meter, there is no end. But you gotta figure that out. You gotta go.
Yeah, I feel like the sexuality in that show, it's not something that excites me too much. I think they've had really fun episodes that are very gay. Like there's an episode of season 5 about a pride parade, which is really funny, and like it ends with this like sex scene that I think like really exemplifies like the best parts of the show. But yeah, I'll definitely take like two lesbian vampires just like going at it more than that, and definitely more than Nosferatu. The only lesbian scene in this movie we got was the one where Lily Rose Depp and
Emma Corrin.
yeah, her friend's character played by Corin.
We do that thing where like I like okay, I mean like yeah, they're actors, yeah, but they have character names. But like, come on, like you want me to remember Emma and Anna? Come on, you don't want me to just say Nicolas Holt?
They got in bed, and Emma Corrin's character gave Lily Rose Depp's character a kiss on the forehead and talked about how dear she is to their heart.
If you were like a young like teenager, just like learning about all the like lesbian energy flowing through you, you think that would have like been enough for you?
I don't think it would be enough for me. I do think though that like teenagers who are really into Tumblr will like fixate on like a crumb, and they'll be like, I'm gonna take this crumb and I'm gonna like make a bunch of fanfic about this, about like how these two women like had this other life that we didn't get to see in the movie. But yeah, for me, give me more Love Lies Bleeding. Give me more Bound. I mean, I think like there's probably more meat on the bone in terms of like homosexuality in the scenes where Count Orlok, the vampire, sucks on Nicholas Holt's body. And I know that did something for you.
Well, okay, well, easy. The thing is that like that scene where the two where Lily Rose Depp and Emma Corrin are like laying in bed and they're just kind of like embracing as friends. I don't know if you could hear my quotations there. The thing is, it felt so 90s. It felt so, yeah, there's some gay acceptance, but like keep that shit in the background.
Get Disney to remove the trans storyline from the Pixar movie, that type of thing.
Yeah, Mulan is just so happens to not go ahead and go full trans mask. Yeah, like it sucks.
Trans mask Mulan, I would definitely watch that movie.
But the Nicolas Holt and the Bill Skarsgård scene, where Skarsgård's like just like giving Nicolas the good suck, the type of good suck that like happens in a lot of vampire media, where it's not, they're just feeding, Bill is just feeding on Nicolas. And and I liked it. I liked it because I thought it reminded me of the 90s Interview with the Vampire, because a Bill just bit into the chest of Nicholas and they started floating up, and I was just like, this is fun. I like this. This might be a callback to Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, but Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise were way gayer.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean that movie, although I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and far prefer the TV show that's airing now, which you can hear more of our thoughts about in our Interview with the Vampire episode with our good friend Pri. But yeah, I think that movie is a lot campier, and there's always like discussions online about like is this new movie camp, and people were like talking about whether there was campiness to Nosferatu. You really gotta dig if you want to find camp in this movie.
In Nosferatu, yes, yeah, you could dig and find camp, and it's just all William Dafoe. It's just William Dafoe setting a bunch of rats on fire.
Yeah. I appreciate that Dafoe is someone who has recurred in a lot of Eggers movies. I haven't seen The Northman. I know you have, but
Yeah.
I have seen The Lighthouse, and I really enjoyed him and Robert Pattinson in that movie. Just like both of them just kind of like going for it completely. And I feel like Nosferatu, out of the 3 Eggers movies I've seen, The Witch being the third, Nosferatu is my least favorite of the 3. The Lighthouse is my favorite. And I think part of the reason why is I feel like the lighthouse, you're just seeing like Eggers fully commit to just making it like a really weird movie. Well, with Nosferatu, it's like, well, we kind of have the source material that's been done so many times. And Eggers is able to, in some ways, make it his own. Like, even if the sex scenes don't excite me that much, he's at least doing something by making some of the subtext more text. But at the same time, I'd rather see Eggers just like give me something completely new.
I get that. So, like, one of the overarching topics in Eggers' oeuvre and the conversation around Nosferatu is about like the eroticism in this, or the like sensuality in this. And look, I'm not gonna rehash them here. Like, who gives a shit? Yeah, a lot of people on TikTok are talking about some shit, whatever. But one of the things, I am a fan of Eggers. I've seen all of his movies. I haven't seen his short films, but like, I'm just not a short film guy. I like a tall film.
And a long jacket.
Yes. Like, throughout all of this, eroticism and their sensuality just pops in and out through all of them. In Nosferatu, there is multiple like love scenes with Lily Rose Depp and Nicolas Hoult, and also, of course, with Bill Skarsgård at the end. And in The Witch, Anna Taylor-Joy and Alexander Skarsgård get down and dirty, and a couple of other people there. In The Lighthouse, in The Lighthouse, there's a mermaid that's getting those boys riled up, and there's also a couple of other scenes there. And in The Witch, which I think is my favorite Eggers movie, there is so much there, and I think there's a lot of parallels in between Nosferatu and The Witch that I am seeing here. And in The Witch is all about this kind of like repression, this Calvinist family out in the middle of fucking nowhere, Massachusetts. I mean, in the boy is going through like some sort of sexual awakening, and Anna Taylor-Joy in that is being seen as about a little bit of a libacious source of chaos. But there is one thing that I remember from The Witch that kind of brought me back to Nosferatu. And that's when the mother is having an argument with the father of The Witch. At a certain point, they're just going through a lot. And she just says, at a certain point, she starts talking about how she has this relationship with God, with Jesus. And she goes on this like rant that kind of culminates to her saying about Jesus, "I was so ravished with his love towards me, far exceeding that of the kindest husband."
Ooh.
Which is just like, yeah, it's just like, yeah, Jesus can fuck better than you, dog.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a theme in these movies that, like, Nicholas Hoult, while he can be she really misses him when he's gone. At the same time, she has this connection to the unknown. Like, she's having these sexual convulsions, and depending on how you see the movie, you could see it as like that's Nosferatu reaching out to her, or
Which is how I see it.
yeah. So in both of those cases, it's like Jesus or Nosferatu. Either way, you're getting better dick than your husband.
Yeah, and even in The Northman, part of that is how a king kills another king, and the wife is kind of like, "Oh yeah, I kind of fucking wanted that." Eggers is all about letting you know that husband dick ain't enough.
Yeah,
But you'll never have to worry about it.
You'll never have to worry about that. Yeah. Yeah.
And me, I got like a, I don't know, 20% chance maybe.
Yeah. The repression that some of these characters are going through, both sexual and otherwise.
Let's just fucking put the axe down here.
Okay.
Neither one of us understand it,
Uh
right?
huh. Yeah.
Like it feels so heteronormative.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of like to the queer eye, like the sexiest things that happen in this movie in Nosferatu are, I don't know, they're not, they don't get the blood flowing.
Uh huh. I feel like in order to talk about how sexual repression relates to this movie, we kind of have to just dive into the ending of the movie, where after Orlok has killed the loved ones of Lily Rose Depp besides Nicholas Holt in the first two nights, on the third night, he's coming for Lily Rose Depp. And Lily Rose Depp's character is seen by Willem Dafoe as the only one who can really defeat Orlok, and the way to defeat him is to keep him up until morning, and then Orlok
We've all been there, am I right?
Orlok, he shows up and starts getting down and dirty with Lily Rose Depp, and he does it until morning, and then he dies, and he dies on top of Lily Rose Depp, and then she dies, and then the movie ends, and that's it. So I know that both of us weren't completely satisfied with this ending. Tell me more about your thoughts.
The thing about this ending is I try to bring out the meaning in it, and I struggle. I struggle to find the meaning in any of this specific ending. By which I mean, I've been reading a lot about Victorian people over the last couple of days. And in it, in this reading, I've learned that there was this idea of women as the angel in the house that provided this natural sense of goodness or godliness, maybe. One of these is I read this essay called "The Woman Question" in A New Companion to Victorian Literature and Culture, and this is how they describe women were seen as at that time. To men belonged the potent consideration of worldly aggrandizement. They operated in professions, government services, in the world of business and industry to acquire property, advance themselves, and improve the material conditions of their wives and families. The world in which they move is to be dominated by inborn selfishness. So men are selfish by nature, at least in the Victorian perspective. In the upper echelon perspective, so they're selfish. They have temptation and vice. Women, by contrast, ensconced in the domestic sphere, are understood to be clothed in moral beauty, selflessness, disinterested in spiritual purity by nature. They are protected against worldly evils and possess a secret moral influence that can correct man's missteps.
Woman be shopping.
Woman be. My thoughts immediately after seeing that final scene is very parallel to what I just read here. It's that women are a tool. Women are a instrument for some sort of moral end. And Lily Rose Depp goes into that night after talking to William Dafoe about how she is the only one that could do this. She really is the only person in this band that can take down Nosferatu, because the only way to take down Nosferatu is if he sees the dawn.
She's the one with the ass that can't quit.
But the thing is that it did quit. It did quit. And my feeling isn't like isn't a I don't even want to call it feminism, because it's such a base concept. But using women like that, I just didn't like that. And learning about this Victorian perspective on men and women, like, just made it even more egregious that this ending is nothing but a ploy done by four men, for their own specific reasons. William Dafoe to do to enjoy the experience of fucking killing a vampire. The doctor just being stuck in a plague. Nicolas hates it. Like, he doesn't want this, but he knows that, like, he himself and his wife is in danger. And then Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Curran and those two kids, they're gone. They're dead. So I didn't like it purely for the feeling of.
I was hoping that there would be something more, partially because I had been hyped on Lily Rose Depp's performance, which I mostly liked. I know you disagree with me there, but
It just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. It has the markers of a good performance. It just didn't do it.
yeah, I enjoyed her, like, her being possessed, ticks, and all that kind of stuff. I guess I was just hoping for more than just she dies, roll credits. Like, I think if she had, like, turned into a vampire herself and, like, killed everyone, I think I would have liked that. I think like, even if it's like a dark ending for her, I would have been into it. I think it's just like, yeah, I agree with you that, like, just like making her be the cure and then she stops existing.
After a life of torment.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel very fulfilling to me. And again, I do think that part of this is like, well, the source material, she dies. It's just like without the sex, like, being shown. And then if you, like, think about like what is this saying, like, about, like, okay, so she was, like, calling out essentially for the supernatural forces, and then Orlok comes in, gives her maybe what's the best fuck of her life, and then she immediately dies. It's like, okay, what are we really saying about sexuality here?
But I mean, is it though? Like, on screen, there is nothing. There's literally nothing erotic that happens.
Yeah.
And Count Orlok ain't getting pussy. He's not getting in there.
Yeah. He's just taking a prosthetic cock and he's jamming it in there. He doesn't really do foreplay. He's just like, yeah, I would hate to have sex with Count Orlok. Even if I wasn't a lesbian, I'd be like, what, this is so slapshod.
Literally, also zero foreplay.
Yeah.
Literally zero. Well, I guess the foreplay is like, hey, do you just want to, like, hey, I created this situation where you have no choice but to say I do. Do you say I do?
Yeah, the foreplay is like haunting her dreams. Yeah, if I want someone to haunt my dreams, I've had plenty of sexy dreams, but Orlok, no, if he came into my dream, I'd be just like, okay, get out of my way. I don't need you.
And like, the whole movie is leading up to this. Orlok creates this situation, influences her mind into kind of just having no choice but to think of him. Like, throughout all of this, like, I will refrain from the analysis of, oh, this is just like, like abuse or whatever. Like, there's actual supernatural shit happening in this movie. Like, and all I could think about is, throughout all of this, the demented shit that Orlok puts through everyone through this, like, the way that it ends. I just don't see any valor or beauty. I can't see, like, I just don't see anything.
Yeah.
The dragon gets slayed and I don't feel anything.
Yeah. I felt most deflated at the end of the movie. I liked a good amount of this movie. I wish it was scarier. That's definitely one of my major complaints with the movie. But, like, I was pretty invested in what was happening, and there are points where I laugh, like when everyone's laughing at Nicholas Hoult when he goes to Transylvania. But yeah, like, It's the first movie in a while where when it ended, I was like, oh, that's it, huh? It was over 2 hours, but I could have done with actually more. Like, well, I wasn't really feeling like, oh, damn. I thought there was gonna be more because I was like on the one hand, it was obvious that like we were in the third act when it's like, well, on the third night this is gonna happen, and now it's the third night. But yeah, it is a story that like has been with us for a long time, and obviously there's been a lot of different variations on it between like all the different adaptations of Dracula and Nosferatu. Yeah, I do wonder like I know you tried to watch the one from like 100 years ago and fell asleep during it.
Yeah, that's kind of all though. Like I tried. It's just it's of a different time. Maybe, yeah, like sure, incredibly influential and important, but in the eyes of a man of the 21st century, it's a snore.
I mean, show me that movie where the train's coming out of the screen and I'm sat down. But yeah, I'm I got some friends who I'm sure will get me to watch more classic movies. I'll borrow that criterion and start really getting into things.
Mm. I've been a little bit of a hater of endings lately. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the lunar cycle. Maybe I'm going all Lupercal here. I want to mention something about the ending. In one interview that Eggers gave at a red carpet, he mentioned that it's not really sunlight that is like gonna kill the vampire, like how you would see in other vampire media. It's not that something about the sunlight just does that, but in the original folk telling of the vampires, it's that they're not allowed to see the purity of dawn.
Oh.
I am someone I'm a slut for themes, and purity as a theme throughout this movie exists. The like Lily Rose Depp at a certain point says that she's unclean. It's her shame that she's shameful about what's happening. There is a plague that happens. Every single person that isn't like the main three looks incredibly dirty. The time in the castle in Romania looks just worn down. The little guy, the fella that is a real estate agent, like he such a dirty little freak of a guy. I mean, he bites a whole pigeon heads off, and so like purity is this theme that runs through it. What is pure? What is not pure? At a certain point, even the line I was saying, does evil come within, or is it from someplace beyond? Like evil in this case being no different than just saying dirtiness or uncleanliness, or the way that it ends. I want to believe that yeah, the sunlight, the dawn light is this sense of purity that can come over any darkened night. But it just does nothing for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's like one of those things where I trust that that's in Robert Eggers' head and that that's like what he was thinking about when they shot that final scene. But I just feel like there's not enough difference between the literal light ending Orlok's life for there to be something meaningful there. And yeah, I feel like I like endings more than you. The latest ending I liked, I think, was the ending to the 3-season show Somebody Somewhere, which I watched all of in the last month. I very excitedly texted a friend after I finished it. And yeah, I think this makes me think about like movies versus TV shows. I'm a big TV fan. Movies, there's some good ones. With TV shows, you really get invested in characters, so that when the TV show ends, like it can feel very cathartic very emotional when you're not going to see them again. With a movie like this, I wasn't really that invested in the characters by the end of this. Like, I wanted Lily Rose Depp's character to keep living, but that's not like a character that I'm going to be thinking about, beyond the next week, I'd say. If you can compare it to another movie that's in theaters right now, Wicked, where we're going to get a sequel to that. And then people are really invested in those characters, partially because of The Wizard of Oz, of the book, of Wicked, of the stage show, of listening to the soundtrack over and over again. So that's kind of like a case that's like in between TV and movies. With Dracula and Nosferatu, those adaptations have been along for a really long time too, but you don't really see people going around being like, yeah, I stand Nosferatu. I'm sure there's some people who will get Nosferatu or have Nosferatu tattoos, but can you imagine someone like getting a tattoo of Nicholas Holt's character from this movie? If you're going to get a tattoo of one of the men in this movie, you got to go for Defoe.
You walk into a parlor and then you're just like, yeah, can I get Thomas Hutter? Can I get Nicholas Holt's Thomas Hutter?
Uh-huh.
I really love the way that he rode a horse that he stole from a nunnery.
Yeah.
I really like the way that he had a little bit of a bushy beard when he arrived back to Germany, and someone cut it off while he was like asleep.
Uh-huh.
I like my mind like I went into the movie theater with the understanding that there's a level of eroticism or a level of sensuality that people on the online really adhere to. Like I was seeing humorous posts about Orlok's cock, and then like I was also seeing people just make jokes about being in love with this guy or whatever, and about the final scene, and I was ready to walk in there to see something, and I didn't really see anything. It reminded me of some other things, like some real world things. In the witch, the line that I said about being ravished and being kinder than any husband, like that came. Eggers brought that out from a diary of the governor of Massachusetts in the 1630s called John Winthrop, and that reminded me this feeling of ecstasy towards this feeling of like lust towards a divine creature, which like Orlok, I guess, could be seen the exact same way. It reminded me of this sculpture from the Renaissance, the Baroque period, by Bernini. Oh, espresso. Once again, it's not Italian, not an Italian accent, just a different type of Latino.
Yeah.
And this is called Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Have you ever seen this? Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think I have.
Here, let me show you an image here.
We'll definitely have to put this in the Instagram post.
Yeah, Instagram at DoveWeather.
Yes, I have seen this.
Describe it.
Okay. So tits are out. We got this person has an arrow, and it's pointing towards another person who looks to be in ecstasy. And because we got angel wings over here, so it's like a full on angel situation. And the angel is kind of has like a quiet confidence to them. They got the robe on that like cuts off right underneath the nipples, and then
the best kind of robe.
Yeah, the second person like has some sort of robe covering most of them, but you can just see their mouth open. They're anticipating penetration. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there.
This is a famous sculpture
Yeah.
of kind of the telling of this Saint Teresa, who was a Spanish mystic nun who had a diary, and she also wrote this experience. And I'm just gonna read you an abridged version here. I saw in his hands a long spear of gold, thrusting it at times into my heart, into pierce my every entrail. The pain was so great, and it made me moan, and yet so surpassed was the sweetness of this excessive pain that I could not wish to be rid of it.
This reminds me of a conversation I had with some friends recently about like the difference between things being horny and erotic. And I think that like that's like an element of this movie where it's Nosferatu is trying to be horny, but it's not erotic. There's more eroticism to what you just read.
Yeah, to this like nun, probably thinking about the other girlies in the nunnery, and she's out here thinking about a golden spear. Like, yeah, like the whole paragraph reads as incredibly vulnerable expression of eroticism.
Uh-huh.
So much so that this statue is way more erotic than a lot of the stuff in Nosferatu,
Yeah.
or in a lot of stuff in modern media. Even if it is literally marble that can't move on I saw Megapolis. This statue is more erotic than anything that happens in Megapolis.
Yeah, take that, Coppola. This reminds me of a letterbox list that Angelica Jade Bastian created. Movies that fuck. A list for sensualists and perverts. This list is actually inspired by Nosferatu.
Before we jump in, though, are you more of a sensualist or a pervert?
I don't think you have to choose.
All right. You're saying I think binary.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, so basically, she saw Nosferatu, didn't like it, and was like, "Oh, you think Nosferatu's for perverts? Let me show you some movies that are actually for perverts." And she said that we are not in a crisis over a lack of sex scenes in American mainstream cinema. We're in a sensuality crisis in cinema as a whole. She wrote on her newsletter more about it, so I definitely recommend checking out this list. I'm going to try to see a bunch of movies from this list because the ones that I have seen are really good. You know, E Tu Mama, Tom Bien, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, The Handmaiden, Stoker, Double Indemnity.
In Possession. If you've ever seen Possession.
I haven't seen that one. I want to see it.
That is not... Talk about a monster.
I think like what catches fire on the internet as being sexy isn't always necessarily sexy. And I think that does speak somewhat to like the sexual repression we're living in right now, where you see like daily arguments online about like whether there should be like sex scenes in movies and TV and people like dunking on them. And it happens not just on Twitter, but I'm seeing it on Bluesky now too. So you can't escape the worst parts of Twitter apparently on a new social media platform.
And Bluesky was always like marketed as Twitter without Elon Musk.
Uh-huh.
And people like to forget that Twitter was never great. Twitter was never great. I'm saying it.
You know, there's a part of me that wants to defend like 2011 through 2015 era Twitter because that was like my main connection to like humanity at that point. But you know what? You're probably right.
And there is always these conversations about, oh, this generation is so puritanical. Oh, they're not having sex. Oh, like the Gen X mentality of like, at least we had sex and rock and roll. I'm like, fuck off. Fuck off. You fucking cried and fucking moaned your way through the last 50 years. Shut up.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, I do hope that eventually the sexual repression ends. And unfortunately, I think the solution is actually, fortunately, the solution is ending capitalism. Unfortunately, that's difficult.
And the truth is, like, we are at the loading end of
We're
2025,
getting loaded.
and it is only starting. You know that the Cheeto Mussolini hasn't even arrived into his big bag.
I see. I made like an Orange Man joke, and you and Pre just like let land with a thud. But now you're making the Cheeto Mussolini joke, and okay, I see how it is. We'll see what 2025 brings. 2024 was a great year for lesbians, and I think that like we have our horniness in the right place, but the heterosexuals, they've gone astray, and I don't know what it is that's going to save them.
It's not gonna be an easy year. We've already seen Roe v. Wade be struck down. I am certain that gay marriage is gonna be challenged in some way, in some format. I'm sure that John Roberts would love to see his work undone by his own hand for the sake of perverts, for the sake of conservatives, and even to the point that like some people are speculating that even interracial marriage is gonna be in the chopping block, or can be in the chopping block. So we are not living in a moment where we're putting it down. Sexual style is gonna be accepted.
Yeah, we live in this liminal space between when Trump was elected president and when he actually becomes the president. And everything feels so hypothetical right now. Like anything can happen. And you have like, there's like, you know, like the whole thing where like the Elon faction of the Republicans and the very anti-immigration faction are fighting each other online. I see some people saying like, "Oh, see, they're already eating each other. That means that like it's going to be harder for Trump to like pass things." And I think there's an element of truth to that, but I also feel like a lot of it is just theater. Like a lot of it makes us think that like, oh, like the worst isn't going to happen, but the thing is that like we're in this period where we have to like prepare for the worst right now, both like mentally and like organizationally. And I don't know exactly how that's going to look now, but I do worry that like 6 months from now we'll be like, damn, like 2024, we thought it was bad, it got so much worse.
Yeah. One of the readings that I think you could do on Nosferatu is a force, a conservative or a regressive force hoisted upon a more progressive part of Europe. I mean, Count Orlok says it as much, that like when this ritual made by the Roma people to try to find the vampire and kill it, seen by Nicholas, like it's there, and he's like, yeah, that's some backward shit. I'm ready to go to Boys Town. I'm ready to like really enjoy a 4-hour brunch every Sunday in summer 2025, and also just kind of ruin it too. Ruin all of it. In Eggers, he in the same lecture that I saw him do for the BAFTAs, he mentions that he doesn't write with a message in mind, and I think that is very clear in all his movies. He kind of admits that he didn't go into The Witch trying to write a feminist movie, just like he didn't go into The Lighthouse thinking he is gonna make a movie about toxic masculinity. I think what Nosferatu is, it isn't a question of is it sensual, is it erotic enough. What it is kind of like an ironic mirror that says, yeah, conservatism has won and it's going to spread. It's going to spread and spread until, like the plague, all across Germany, AFD, for example, um, or the United States, with literally the trifecta of power for the Republicans. In unfortunately, that is where the similarities end, because there is no maiden that can take upon this death and bring in the dawn. There's just none.
Yeah, the only maiden that can do it is socialism, and unfortunately, socialism isn't contained in just one person. Our world isn't as individualistic as that. I liked when we were talking earlier, and you were like, "Yeah, Count Orlok, he's just a gentrifier."
Yeah, I mean, he is. he he's just buying up these like condemned homes. He is doing a gut renovation. He's gonna make a three flat into a three flat, but two apartments on each floor. And he's gonna just go ahead and ruin the culture of Pilsen more and more. And yeah, you could still get some good food there, some good tacos, but there's a fucking vampire down the road trying to vibe me out and see if he could give me the good suck or just kill me.
Yeah, it's definitely a contrast with what we do in the shadows, where they've been living in Staten Island for a really long time. And it is funny because like Staten Island, like that's where like all the like the conservative, I mean not all, but like it's like the laughing stock of New York essentially. It's like that's where the gentrifiers live already.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Davidson's from there.
If you think about how this is like an adaptation of like a 100-year-old movie, and how like they changed the location to Germany. Definitely that means that like this idea of this evil infecting another country has been with this kind of story has been with us for a long time. And if you think about it, like this rise of conservatism, it's not just about like the last 12 years in Trump. This neoliberal conservatism has been on the rise for a long time now. And yeah, I do eventually hope for more stories where it's not just about like, okay, here's this overwhelming evil, and here's the one cool trick to get rid of it.
Yeah, no one weird trick to organizing. I think a lot of people forget that, but or I think a lot of people want that. Fuck it, person, company included.
Yeah.
Me. I won't speak for you,
Yeah.
even though I can.
As we all know, there are no shortcuts. Yeah. If only we did have like the let's bottle up all of capitalism into one vampire, and then as long as we keep the vampire up until daylight, then that means we destroy all of capitalism.
If only. There is also some other things to mention. Like, I don't want to end in too much of a sour note here.
We still got Hopecast coming up.
Hopecast. I call that the Rise of Dawn. And I just want to mention that I like Robert Eggers. Like, maybe like, yeah, I want to see some themes that are just capital T themes, and I want to like devour that in a three course meal. But I like his work, and I like his process. Like, he is such a like deep diver into research. He seeks to provide a kind of an image of the past that can reflect the beginning, the contemporaneous moment, willingly or unwillingly. Like, it just happens because, like, yeah, he might be talking about a lot of the things that were happening back then the same things that we have to deal with. You know, the anti-woman, anti-gay things, the pro capital shit. But I like that he dives into it. Every interview that I have that I have seen him in, he always just like drops these morsels of information in all of his research that he's done. And I like that. I feel almost a kinship with him. I do the same thing.
Yeah, you definitely relate to someone who likes to prove that they're smart to everyone.
Okay, you literally started this podcast by saying you could have won most intelligent in your high school, but okay.
Yeah, but I feel
Okay,
like
ma'am.
I no longer care about as much about proving that I'm the smartest. I feel like that's like growth I've went through since high school, where I'm like, you know what, doesn't fucking matter.
Look, this is something I've been accused of a lot in my life.
Uh-huh.
I am not trying to prove anything. I'm not even doing it consciously. It just happens. This is how I think.
Yeah.
I kind of like creatives that can take a whole bunch of different influences, thoughts and ideas and research and like pour them into a synthesized image. I have failed to realize that he is that. He does that well, and it reminds me of other creatives that I really admire, like Hirokio Araki, who is the guy that writes JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like the way that he synthesizes so many different pieces of information, I really admire that. Or like Hideo Kojima, who created the Metal Gear Solid series. Like the ability to take all that information and make it, and it not be pastiche or like cheap pastiche. I really admire that, and I really do like Egger's work, and I think you should, if you're leaving Nosferatu or any of his movies thinking, oh, maybe read into like the research that he did, and maybe read some of that. Maybe read some of it. Maybe try to prove that you're smart.
Yeah, even though this is like my least favorite of his movies I've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. Because I do think that like something like The Lighthouse proves that he can make something that can really like make you feel a little bit dizzy. And yeah, you know, anyone who has egg in their name, you know, I always love to encourage people to come out as trans. This is like one of my silliest
If you are
bits.
trans, come out as trans.
Oh god, it's hard to say that in this era when like people are like, am I gonna even be able to be openly trans a year from now? But imagine like Eggers comes out and is like, yep, the egg was inside me the entire time.
The egg was the friends we made along the way.
Uh-huh. Okay, do you want to do Hopecast now?
Yeah. What's
Okay.
your hope cast?
My Hopecast is that despite all the stressors of 2025, I'm actually excited for a lot in this year. I have some personal things that I'm looking forward to. I think that I'm going to come out of this year being closer to who I want to be as a person. I think that there's a lot of love in my life right now, and I'm really happy about that. And yeah, overall, I'm excited for the rest of the year.
She is smitten. She's over here yearning. She's over here limericing. I walked in on her writing a poem to this mysterious lover that she's got, and I was reading it and I was just like, that is not how you spell redemption, but whatever, you know, I'm just the smartest person in fucking.
Yeah, I definitely would like read about Survivor Redemption Island in a love letter.
I think it's very sweet that you kind of give me a rundown of what your 2025 might look like. And I think it's very sweet that you have so much to look forward to. And seeing the little love you got flourishing, that's also nice. So
I appreciate
I'm happy for you. As for me, my Hopecast is, I don't really, like, something happened to me, and I lost my ability to walk for about 2 weeks. I'm better. I'm better. I'm better. So just being able to do that, just it's like a double dipping of difficult mobility experiences in late 2024 for me. And the second time around, there was almost nothing I could romanticize about it. But the fact that I just like was steady in my approach and was able to find find the willingness to just not fall into the trap of never believing I will get better. I like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm more resilient than I've ever been.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad to see you doing better. Glad to see you walking. Glad to know you did some dancing on New Year's Eve. And yeah, we're about to get the most powerful AP we've ever had.
Yeah. Nothing can bring me down.
Don't bring me down. Ooh, ooh.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening to Dove Weather. You can find us in
Every single podcast app on the planet.
including YouTube.
Yeah, we see YouTube fans giving us so many views
And you can find us on Instagram.
at Dove Weather,
You could find us on Twitter, on liberal Twitter,
Bluesky.
at Dove Weather again, and you can find us in your dream tonight.
Yeah, you can give us 5 stars, and we'll be seeing you soon with, you know what? I'm not even going to tease it. It's so good, I don't even need to tease it. We'll be seeing you sooner than Nosferatu thinks.
Ciao, bambina.
Bye.